charm, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1.
Line drive and a base hit. Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Forbes Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie Jackson. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throw. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them in their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. This is it back. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to his feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
almost forgot where all the buttons and everything were and the sequence of events to light this candle and get this rocket launched and get rolling. Hey, welcome to the show. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2019. I am Dan Scott, in case you have forgotten. Some of you probably wish you had forgotten. But here we are, back at it and looking forward to spending the next hour with you. Hope that, man, you got through Christmas okay, you got through New Year's okay, we're just in the second day of 2019, so you've got plenty of time to get this year off to a good start. Our goal here with the show and moving forward into the new year, if things are rolling well, man, we don't want to do anything to mess it up. We just want to come alongside you and help and celebrate that fact. If it's not going well, maybe we can do something to provide you a little lift on a daily basis. And again, the object here, if you've never joined us before, judging by the viewing numbers, many of you haven't, to borrow a line from Major League. If you've never joined us before, we always want to learn something we did not know, and that generally starts right here in this chair. We are going to kick off 2019 with about the best we have, and that is, since it's Wednesday and since we are all back at it, Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com and the David Glenn Show will be with us at 10:25. We'll take a look at all things ACC, which, of course, is going to include a fourth consecutive year of Clemson versus Alabama, the third time in those 4 years it'll be in the national title game, and also a bunch of other things going on around the Atlantic Coast Conference, both in football and in basketball. So we'll compartmentalize as much as that as we can with Dave Glenn coming up at 10:25, and we will also take a look ahead as to what is next for the Furman Paladins. The undefeated streak is over. Now the streak is actually back-to-back losses at LSU before Christmas and at ETSU after Christmas. What lies ahead now for Bob Ritchie's team? Well, there is plenty ahead, and we're going to talk about that as well. I'm interested to know how you made it through your holiday. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can give us a bit of a snapshot of that in the comments section. Have you enjoyed the bowl games? Have you enjoyed bowl season? Are you one of those people who think that there are too many bowl games? And if so, what's your solution? I'll be honest with you. I don't mind the bowl games. I don't, because I think a lot of times there's a greater good at play when you're talking about getting a team to the postseason. And yeah, everybody likes to see their team have a chance to win one more game. And yeah, every coach likes to say he's got a postseason win on his resume. And for some, it means maybe a bonus. I get all that. And we hear, and I think there's some legitimacy to it, that it's extra practice time, which is definitely going to help the young players. The downside to it, what we're seeing come into vogue now and over the last couple of seasons, is potential high draft picks in the upcoming NFL draft deciding not to play in the bowl game to protect themselves from injury and work towards getting ready for the combine and the upcoming NFL draft. While I understand that line of thinking, I don't necessarily like it. And here's one of the reasons why I don't like it. West Virginia quarterback Will Grier was one of those players who decided to forego his team's bowl game and concentrate on preparation for the upcoming NFL draft. Didn't want to take a chance of getting hurt. I don't know if he plans to participate in the combine or not, but he is going to be one of the handful of elite quarterbacks that will be available in this upcoming draft. So he decides not to play in that game, which, again, on this hand, I understand making that decision, guarding that future, and especially when you've got a potential seven-figure contract staring you in the face. The other side of it, though, is where I tend to lean, and I'd like to think that if I were in this situation, this is where I would come down. And I can't say 100% that I would, because I don't have a seven-figure contract staring me in the face. We all like to sit back and say we'd take the high road. We would do what we think is the morally right thing to do. But we often, almost always, in fact, make those decisions when we don't have the other side of the decision to consider. In other words, it's something that's never going to happen to us, so it's easy to sit back and say, I can't believe he would do that to his teammates. I can't believe he would do this. I can't believe he would do that. So, in putting it in context, I say I hope I would make the following decision. I hope that I would decide, like other players have done, to play the game regardless of their draft status, regardless of the opportunity whatever the chances of getting injured might be, because you came through all of the battles, all the wars, all of the things that you hear with those teammates, and to abandon them in that moment, even though it's a game that quote-unquote doesn't mean anything, it still is one more opportunity to play, one more opportunity to play together, and in some cases, one more opportunity to help get the team, the guys who are going to be coming back for another year, the ability to have those extra practices, that one more game to do all those things. So you've got the argument on both sides. Here's where the Will Grier situation, I think, is a bit different. And this is why I really disagreed with, in this particular situation, Will Grier's decision not to play for West Virginia in that bowl game. And I think most of you know I'm a West Virginia fan. So I'm born and raised in the state. So you can say I'm picking on him because of my home state. I don't think that's the case, but if that's the way you feel, so be it. Listen to my argument anyway, and then make your own decision. Here's why I think Will Grier was wrong to pass up West Virginia's bowl game. Will Grier, you remember, started his career at the University of Florida and had his right to play at the University of Florida taken away because he failed a drug test and was suspended for using performance-enhancing drugs, or getting at least tested for performance-enhancing drugs. Despite that knowledge, West Virginia University welcomed him into that program. And now, again, it's easy to welcome in an elite-level quarterback. I know. It's easier to do that than, say, a guy who may be a borderline starter-type talent at a lesser profile position. But the bottom line is that West Virginia took a chance on this guy after a very, very embarrassing chapter in his personal history. Regardless of what the circumstances were or not, ultimately the bottom line is he was suspended from the University of Florida because of his actions or the test results that resulted from something, knowingly or unknowingly. You can put that argument out all day long. The bottom line, again, though, West Virginia took a chance on this guy. They brought him in, they welcomed him into the program despite the baggage, and put him in a position to be where he is today. And that is an elite quarterback who's going to be a high draft choice in the NFL draft in April. I just feel like in this situation, maybe more than another, he owed it to West Virginia to play that final game for them. And you may look at it differently. West Virginia may have looked at it differently. I'm just telling you, given what happened in his past, I believe he owed West Virginia a little more than what he gave them in that decision not to play in that final game, because they are the ones who took the chance that resurrected his career. Would somebody else have done it? Yeah, there's no question they would have, but it was West Virginia that did it, and I just felt that he owed West Virginia a little more because of that. You may not agree with that, and that's fine, but in the bottom line is that I just felt like because it was West Virginia that took the chance on him after the episode at Florida, that he owed them a little more than just walking away from that final game. And again, the game, by and large, doesn't mean anything. And you can turn around and say, well, look, the coach also just turned around and walked away, and he walked away for millions of dollars as well. The world of big-time college football in many ways is screwed up right now. I'm just focusing on this particular situation, this particular incident, and saying that I believe that because of what happened with West Virginia giving him a chance, that he owed them a little more. That's one situation in a dozen. The bottom line is that this is the way it's going to be moving forward. If a team doesn't have a chance to play for a championship, then their players they're high-profile guys. Many of them are going to choose to walk away and not play in that bowl game. What's going to be intriguing is going to be the first time it happens to a team that's in the playoffs, that one of their players decides it's in his personal best interest not to play in one or potentially two more games. Hasn't happened yet, to my knowledge, to a playoff team. But you can see the ball rolling, and eventually somebody's going to make that decision. And then what's the fallout going to be? Who knows? We'll see. It's 10:14. We need to step out for a break. We'll come back. Got a little Furman video for you that Carly Rose put together over the break. Kind of a 60-second look back at the fall semester here as we get set for the spring semester upcoming. And Dave Glenn on the way at 10:25. This is the Dan Scott Show. It's presented each and every day by Carolina Creative. CarolinaCreative.co is the website. Go see what Randy and his folks can do for you, just like they have done for my business with the new website. So many more things they can do. In fact, you're going to hear about them coming up right now from a very familiar voice. We'll be back in just a moment. Hey, everybody, Dan Scott here, and I want to tell you about my technology partner, Carolina Creative Group. When my show needed a creative technology boost, I turned to Carolina Creative Group. My custom design website is going to take marketing as well as brand strategy and development to new levels. The search engine optimization means that my clients' ads will be seen by more people more often. And if I have any questions, Carolina Creative Group is just a phone call away. Friends, that is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. You can find out all the ways that Carolina Creative Group can help your business by simply calling 864-250-2012. Again, that's 864-250-2012, or simply visit them online at carolinacreative.co. Carolina Creative Group, technology partner of the Dan Scott Show.
If you're looking for the perfect frame for that special photo or painting, Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca can deliver for you. Family owned for nearly 4 decades, Trevor and the folks at Custom Corners Frame Shop pride themselves on quality, presentation, and professionalism. They offer picture framing for every budget, and every job is custom. Custom Corners Frame Shop also sells work from local artists as well as locally themed gifts. For more information, visit them at 289 Market Street in Seneca. Call 864-882-7736 or find them on Facebook, Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca.
Imagine a university. A university where your passion for protecting local water sources is encouraged. And now, your work not only benefits your career, but the health of those in your community and around the world. This is Furman. This is the Furman Advantage.
Dan Scott here for the Atlanta Bread Company. What do I like about Atlanta Bread? Well, too much to mention in a short commercial, but here are a few things. Bread baked daily, fresh on site, a tremendous selection of soup, sandwiches, and salads, seasonal special additions to the menu, delicious hot coffee, and a bevy of other drink options. And yeah, can't forget about the baked sweet goodies. Dine in or carry out, and when you have the Atlanta Bread Company app, you can order and pay online, then breeze past the lines to the pickup counter to get your food. Experience it for yourself. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
When you go in search of a fence company, what's your criteria? Experience? Trust? A company that gets it right the first time and stands behind its work? Then your search is over. Faulkner Fence has been Greenville's fence company for more than 40 years. Ed Faulkner started the business, and now son Todd continues the tradition of excellence. So regardless of your fencing needs, commercial, industrial, or residential, trust the company that Greenville has trusted for over 4 decades. Faulkner Fence, 864-271-4626, or online at FaulknerFenceCompany.com.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dan Scott. Good to have you with us here as we continue on this. It's a Wednesday. Of course, it's going to feel like Monday, but it is a Wednesday, I promise you. And I hope that your day is going well so far. I want to show you this video that Carly Rose put together. It's kind of a video recap to remind you of what a great fall it was here on campus at Furman University, and what the is kind of foretelling perhaps of what the spring semester is going to be like. Take a look at this video put together by Carly Rose in our wonderful video department here at Furman. Starts again, right? It just repeats over and over. Just a fun little look at what transpired here a bit on campus in the fall semester, and looking ahead to a big-time spring semester. Of course, basketball, men's and women's carries over, and you've got a full litany of events coming up, beginning with tennis and golf, and then, of course, some of you may have heard that my favorite sport is baseball. I don't know if that word has gotten out yet, but baseball season starts third week in February, and we're looking forward to that as well. And by the way, this is also, I think, the first show that we've done. Maybe we did one prior, but I'm thinking maybe it's the first one we've done since the announcement that Furman's men's basketball is available now and will be through the end of the season via Sirius XM satellite radio. That's a big step for a school our size, and we're very, very excited. The channels vary like they do for all schools, so the release that the school puts out prior to the games, the social media, I'll be putting it out on social media for every game. If you are a Sirius XM customer and you are out and about, you can listen to the game no matter where you are across this great country of ours via Sirius XM satellite radio. The next opportunity, of course, is Thursday night at 7 o'clock when Mercer comes to Timmons Arena. All right, let's go to break. We'll come back. Dave Glenn joins us on the other side, and we'll talk a lot more about all things ACC with Dave when we return after this.
For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant more life-changing wishes. Visit Make-A-Wish online now. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hall's Chop House in downtown Greenville is the Greenville Steakhouse. Why? Well, it starts with the Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago. The rest of the menu falls into place there. But it really goes beyond that. It's their level of service, their commitment to that service. The place is packed every night, and yet Billy and his staff have a way of making you and your table feel like you're the most important table in the place. They have lunch on Fridays and Saturdays, brunch on Sundays, live music every time the doors are open. The Greenville Steakhouse is Hall's Chop House, Main Street, downtown. Tell them you heard about them on the Dan Scott Show.
Mayhem is everywhere.
I'm a fight in the stadium parking lot. One of us was rooting for the home team. The other was also rooting for the home team, but misheard the first one. Them's fighting words. Now we're working this out all over your car. And this could last a while because we're evenly matched. We're both big. We're both better at punching stuff than doing puzzles. We both think Italy's in South America. We both peaked somewhere between 8th grade and the second time we took 8th grade. Oh, and while you were gone, we've both been rammed repeatedly by the other into your car. Our already scarred faces will heal, but if you've got cut rate insurance, you could be living with these dents. So get Allstate, where agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Are you in good hands?
In Easley, it's Ray Williams, Allstate, 864-859-7504.
Looking for a great car, but your credit needs work? Premier Automotivations is a professional referral service motivated to help you drive a car you love while rebuilding your credit. Late model cars of all kinds. Premier Automotivations can get you on the road and your credit on the road to recovery today. Serving all of upstate South Carolina, it's Premier Automotivations. Call Sherry today at 864-722-3785 or email cricketgravely@gmail.com.
Go the Distance Performance Coaching offers individualized coaching for distance runners of all ability levels, beginner to seasoned runner, and exists to help you achieve your running goals. All training plans are custom built, tailor-made just for you based on your experience, current fitness level, injury history, and goals. You're going to receive expert coaching from Hall of Fame runner Brock Bailey, and Coach Brock is ready to help you go the distance. You can find out everything you need to know about Go the Distance Performance Coaching and Brock Bailey at the website gocoach.run. Gocoach.run. That's Go the Distance Performance Coaching. You know, again, you take a couple of weeks off because of Christmas and New Year's, and you come back in, and all the things that are rote behavior you do without thinking, hit this button, slide that pot, do this, do that, all of a sudden I'm having to think about it again. And anybody who knows me knows that when I start thinking too much, bad things tend to happen. But that's the way it goes. One thing I don't have to think about is bringing on strong guests, and the strongest, the best one I have has been part of this program in all of its shapes and sizes and phases going back to the early part of the 2000s. He is Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com, The David Glenn Show, and also contributes to TheAthletic.com. And he joins us here to talk all things ACC. David, welcome back to the program. Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Happy New Year to you and your listeners. I'm curious, when we get to our 20-year anniversary on your show, does that mean we get a special trip somewhere?
You know what? We need to work on that, don't we?
I forget when that milestone will come, but we should celebrate in style whenever it's
Yeah, I agree with me. But also thanks for the pressure. I've got my 30th anniversary coming up this year, and she's expecting a trip somewhere too. So
I will be much easier to please. I promise you.
Chicken wings for all. There we go. Hey, I want to get head first right into a lot of what's going on here and maximize as much of our time as we can. And let's start by talking about the suspensions of the three Furman players, including, of course, starting defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, because of the failed drug test for what was a minuscule amount of a very very odd substance to have come up in that test, but it was enough to get him suspended. What are the chances that their appeal is going to be successful in time for them to be eligible to play in this championship game?
That is nothing more than a guessing game, really, because these are not issues we've dealt with very frequently. Of course, they've already missed one game, so you know that the rules are written in such a way that even though it's a minuscule amount, even though it's a substance that most of us had either never heard of or rarely heard of, it was enough in the eyes of the rules that they had to miss the national semifinal game. So the appeals process is going to kind of boil down to the whatever's written into the rules. And because we don't have a lot of precedent on this, that makes it a lot harder to guess how it's going to end. As a matter of fairness, I just kind of hope the guys get to play. But as a matter of the cold, hard rule of law, and in this case, PED use, it might not be that simple the way the rules are executed.
Yeah, one of the things I read that an appeal is likely going to be based on the fact that it's something that they did not knowingly either ingest, or in the case they're talking about this substance maybe even being soaked into the body through hair gel or hair products. But they're going to have to prove that it happened and they didn't know it was happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's something we've seen help in other contexts in other sports. But usually the baseline is you've got to know what gets into your body, and you can be punished even if it's accidental, even if it's, the steak that you ate in Mexico where, the cattle are raised in different ways with different products, et cetera. Generally speaking, the starting point is you're responsible for what is in your body. Now, is there some wiggle room in that appeal where I think common sense would tell you that an unknown ingredient in hair gel, and this is where the scientists have to come in. I couldn't tell you about the scientific certainty of whether hair gel could actually result in this product being in that volume in those players' bodies. That's way beyond my pay grade, but if that is something that can be supported by science, it sounds like that's the basis of the appeal, and we'll see if common sense can prevail.
And it's going to be intriguing to see what happens with those three players, and it's a story that is ongoing. As far as the game itself, I don't think the fact that it's Clemson and Alabama standing at the end surprises very many people, if anybody. The question is, David, does Alabama-Clemson 4, is that good for college football?
Well, it's not bad to me. Now, that is such a subjective question. You all know how this works.
Yep.
This is the entertainment business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that even those who are complaining about not wanting to see this game again, most of them are going to watch the game. And if you watch the game, even though you're complaining about, some NBA fans, the Golden State Warriors again, some NFL fans, the New England Patriots again, a lot of folks complain about dynasties and these super heavyweights and the repetition of it all at times, but a lot of those same people watch the games anyway. And I have a feeling that whereas Clemson over Notre Dame for a lot of people was not must-see TV on the front end because they assumed the Tigers were going to stomp the Irish, which they did. I don't know how you can be a fan of college football and whether you like it or not be excited, not classify as must-see TV the Clemson-Alabama game this year again. In years past, the ratings have not been as good as the college football decision makers wanted them to be. But that's a more general thing about the decline in TV viewing. I don't think it has anything to do with the Tide versus the Tigers. And we'll see come Monday night or soon thereafter whether the numbers support, whether there's some kind of fatigue factor for college football fans. I don't think there will be. And I just hope the game delivers what we've come to expect from Clemson and Alabama.
Well, the end game ultimately is to try to get the two best teams into the championship game, and we went through the BCS era where that was suspect at times, and not saying that a 4-team playoff by any stretch of the imagination is perfect, but in this particular year, in this situation, and really in the 3 years now that these two teams have met in the championship game, counting what will happen on Monday, it's hard to argue that these are not the two best teams in college football. In fact, there is no argument that these are the two best teams in college football.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at what's happened to the teams, ranked lower in the top 10. Most of them not only lost, they lost convincingly to various degrees. So just the eyeball test tells you this. Their records tell you this. Those two head coaches, the trailblazers, the 1-2 punch in modern college football history, especially now that Urban Meyer has officially retired from Ohio State. I mean, these are the teams that are sending so many players to the NFL. These are the teams that are signing top 10 recruiting classes regularly on the front end. And these are the teams that are winning an insane percentage of their games in between. I saw a recent tweet, I think it was from Larry Williams, who's done a great job of covering Clemson for a long, long time. Usually the kind of numbers that these two dynasties have put up come in different eras. It would have been Oklahoma for this stretch of the 70s or whatever,
yeah.
and Nebraska for this other stretch, or Miami for this other stretch, and Florida State for this different stretch. These two dynasties have an overlap, and whereas some are screaming about how that's a bad thing, I think there might be just as many, if not more, saying we're lucky to see what we're seeing under two of the best coaches in modern college football history and two of the best programs in modern college football history.
Yeah, I kind of liken it to another era and another sport, but I kind of liken it to the 1950s when it seemed like it was the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series every year right there in the hub that was New York City. And did fans of other teams get tired of it? Yeah, they did. But, man, you look back on that now, and that is considered to be one of the golden eras of the sport of baseball, and they were clearly the two best teams that were getting there year in and year out. You come into the NFL a generation later, the Green Bay Packers were in the NFL championship game in the first two Super Bowls. So, I mean, dynasties are good, I think, for the sports. The New England Patriots would be a current dynasty in the NFL right now. I think that they're good for sports. I think that these two teams right now have set themselves up as the two elite programs in the country. I don't see there's anything wrong with them being the last two teams standing. And if you want to beat them, get better than them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And given your kind of multi-sport analogy there, I think it's worth pointing out that whereas, say, the old school Boston Celtics of the NBA were just truly an insanely dominant program at that professional level in that particular sport, the rules have changed in all of the professional sports. And whereas you still have, the Warriors winning 3 of the last 4 NBA titles, you still have the New England Patriots as a dynasty. You don't have nearly as many examples of the teams that just keep cranking it out every single year.
Sure.
My Philadelphia Eagles broke through for their first Super Bowl last year. We've seen some variety in hockey and baseball and other sports. And a lot of that has to do with something that is not in play in college athletics, and that is the parity or various degrees of it that can be brought about by the decision makers in those sports, where they, in a collective bargaining agreement, say, in this sport, we're going to have a salary cap. And in this sport, baseball, we're going to have a luxury tax. And it doesn't even the playing field. There's no such thing in any sport, exactly, not even college football. But they come closer to leveling the playing field so that the biggest, richest teams can't simply steamroll the smaller market, lower budget teams. And you still have an advantage if you have more money than everybody else. But in the professional sports, those advantages can be lessened by luxury taxes and salary caps. In college football, for example, you do have the 85 scholarship limit, and that is a step toward parity. But you don't have, of course, anything like, say, a salary cap for coaches or something like that. Those would actually be illegal at the college level. And it's just one less way for those who don't like what college football keeps spitting out in the form of Alabama and Clemson. At the college level, without those luxury taxes and salary caps, it goes back to what you just said. Others simply have to get better under the current rules because there isn't anything similar to those professional solutions when you watch college football or college basketball.
Yeah, I found it very interesting that Mac Brown, who was once and again the North Carolina coach on television earlier this week, talked about Alabama and Clemson are the top two schools because they have the most money. And you know, you dive a little deeper into that, and that is so not true when you look at the revenue projects or the top revenue programs. Texas A&M is number one in the nation. His former team Texas is up there. These are not the top two revenue producing teams in the country at all. Now they do produce great revenues, but they maximize what revenues they have, I think, better than anybody else.
Yeah, and there was a kernel of truth in what Mac Brown was trying to say, but he didn't say it quite the right way. For example, we've all read those articles about Alabama's football support staff. I mean, there are so many quality control coaches and assistant this and assistant that. I mean, way beyond, the NCAA regulated number of full-time assistant coaches. That does have a cap. But those support staff people, there's no cap on that. And Alabama does spend more in many ways. You're right. It's not a direct line. It's not spend the most, win the most. But there is a correlation. And Alabama has been spending at the high end of the spectrum for a long time, not just for Nick Saban, but in all those other ways. And I think, we'd all be crazy to think it's purely financial because prior to Nick Saban, Alabama struggled despite spending tons of money. Prior to Dabo Swinney, Clemson had its own roller coaster despite spending a lot of money relative to the rest of the ACC in football. So it's a mixture of a lot of things. Money does matter, but money just kind of puts you into the race. And you better be doing the rest of that stuff well, or you could just be spending a lot of money for a mediocre product.
Yeah, Forbes put out a list of college football's most valuable teams back in September at the start of football season. Texas A&M was 1, Texas 2, Michigan 3, Alabama was 4. And in the top 25, Clemson is not even listed. And this is talking about overall revenue and then profit made off of that revenue. Clemson's not even listed in the top 25 when it comes to the amount of profit made. They're not even listed in the top 25 as far as revenue goes. Now, I don't know how that list has changed. I don't know where their information came from. I'm just telling you what's on Forbes.com right now. Alabama is 4th on that list, and Clemson is not listed in the top 25. So I guess you can make of it what you will. Bottom line is we've got the two best teams that'll be playing on Monday. Now, you ready to make a pick? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm not betting against Alabama. I mean, as much as I respect both teams, and I do think either one is capable of winning, I don't think this is like the Clemson-Notre Dame matchup where I thought unless the Irish, were +4 in turnovers, they had no chance of winning that game.
Right.
And unless Oklahoma was going to find a similar script, I didn't think the Sooners had much of a chance. This is more fun because it's less predictable. And I saw one, computer-generated estimate that Alabama has a 51% chance of winning and Clemson has a 49% chance of winning. Well, that's about as close to a coin flip as you can get. I do think, especially with the suspensions, if they hold, Alabama has just a little bit more overall depth. But the way the Tigers have come along offensively since that controversial switch way back when from Kelly Bryant to Trevor Lawrence at the quarterback position, and even the emergence of some younger players who have proven to be the Tigers' better players on the offensive side of the ball. They're better now than they were in, say, September. It is truly the closest of close calls. And I don't have, an avalanche of reasons to tell you why I pick Alabama over Clemson. I think just overall depth and maybe a little bit more high-end talent overall gives the Tide a very, very slight edge over the Tigers in my eyes.
All right, Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, David Glenn Show, and The Athletic joining us here on the program as we get this 2019 year started off right. Let's move on to some other news. How shocked were you at Mark Richt retiring as the head football coach at the University of Miami?
I was surprised by the fact that he's a young man, right? This is not somebody who's had questions of retirement surrounding him the way in basketball, for example, Jim Boeheim gets that question at Syracuse because he's in his 70s, or Mike Krzyzewski at Duke because he's in his 70s. Mark Richt is a youthful, energetic guy at the age of 58. Now, the reason I can't say I'm in a state of shock is they crashed back to earth in terms of wins and losses this year.
Mm-hmm.
They were shockingly mediocre on the recruiting trail. I mean, longtime Miami fans just could not figure out why. You know, the buzz of Mark Richt returning to his alma mater, and remember early in his tenure taking the Hurricanes all the way to the ACC title game. I mean, I know they got annihilated by Clemson in that game, but there were things to sell as he came off that decade and a half of success at Georgia and then returned to his alma mater where he was really a beloved member of that community. Recruiting goes poorly, wins and losses go poorly, and then the bowl game was an absolute train wreck. And I think the fact that his star defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz, remember what went wrong with the Hurricanes was not on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
They were playing championship caliber defense. They were just embarrassingly bad on offense. Well, Manny Diaz, defensive coordinator for those great teams, gets hired away by Temple, and Mark Richt, being about as selfless a person as I've ever met and not at all enamored with the spotlight. He's just a man of deep faith and does not let anybody else's vision of priorities impact how he sees the world. I think he saw an opportunity for Miami to attempt a less severe transition. And the next thing you know, Manny Diaz is getting a phone call where he's like, hey, I know you've been announced as the new head coach at Temple. I know you've just signed a recruiting class there, but we need you to come back to the U. And Mark Richt and his wife, who have lots of interests outside of football, I think they saw that as kind of taking one for the team and at least allowing the possibility for what they started to build with some success to continue with a member of his own staff, Manny Diaz, rather than having to start all over in Coral Gables.
I think since the last time we met, I know that Scott Satterfield had already taken the Louisville job. We talked about that. What about the Jeff Collins hire at Georgia Tech? I don't think we have spent any time on that one yet.
Yeah, to me, I think the one part of that we discussed was the social media narrative, where it was not as extreme as Tennessee's complete hatchet job on Greg Schiano last year, where, you know, sports radio hosts and angry people on Twitter basically forced the hand of the Tennessee Volunteers away from some candidates and toward others. There was a miniature version of that played out at Georgia Tech, where former Georgia Tech player Ken Wisenhunt of the NFL, who's been doing great things as an offensive coordinator with the Chargers, and obviously would have been a stark contrast to the triple option of Paul Johnson, which a lot of Georgia Tech fans had soured on. That was so harshly received on social media and portrayed as, you know, Georgia Tech AD Todd Stansbury hiring an old buddy rather than going through a national search. To a small degree, it was another example of the power of modern day pushback from whatever percentage of the fan base. I mean, Jeff Collins did good things at Temple, but it's not like he is the hot commodity no-brainer. He won 7 games last year and he won 8 games this year. He's only been a head coach for 2 years. He did have time as an assistant or a grad assistant, I think both, with the Yellow Jackets. So he has a connection to the program. But this is a guy whose resume is thin relative to what you're used to seeing when it comes to the ACC hiring new football coaches. So we'll see if it works out. But that was the most interesting aspect of that aspect of the coaching carousel to me this year.
Yeah, real quick, what's going on at NC State? Dave Doran making staff changes?
Yeah, and it's the staff changes that are easier to digest, I guess. He had a really good offensive line coach that helped, produce some national award winners and a really consistent ground game and protecting Ryan Finley in recent years. Dwayne Ledford was hired away by Louisville under Scott Satterfield. They coached together at App State for a while. And Eli Drinkowitz, his offensive coordinator at NC State, was hired as the new head coach at App State. So, you know the deal, Dan. When your top assistants are getting promotions and head coaching jobs, et cetera, it's a little easier to digest. You don't like to see them leave, but you're doing something right if your coaches are viewed as hot commodities rather than the off-season attrition where you have to fire guys because they're not doing their jobs very well.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Any takeaways from the ACC so far, 5-5 performance in the bowl season?
I think, beyond by far the headliner being Clemson and what happens on Monday night, I think the other most interesting thing is that Dino Babers at Syracuse won his bowl game and got to 10 wins. That brands your program in a way that his first couple of years did not. He inherited a difficult situation. He had losing records his first couple of years. And now they're comparing this Syracuse team to, how long has it been? Donovan McNabb teams won double-digit games, and this other team, so he got to that that 10-win threshold that changes the way people view your program. Whereas NC State at 9 wins with a shot at the second 10-win season in program history, they not only lost to Texas A&M at the Gator Bowl, they got demolished by the Aggies at the Gator Bowl. So that was a disappointing end to an otherwise good season for NC State, even as it was a fantastic finish for Syracuse, who other than Clemson had the best season of anybody in ACC football.
All right, Dave, tell people how they can get more of what you're doing as 2019 unfolds, and there are so many ways they can follow you now.
Indeed. On Twitter, we're at David Glenn Show and at ACC Sports. Online, ACCSports.com has all of our football, basketball, recruiting, and other ACC coverage, weekly rankings, analytics, football and basketball, and otherwise. That remains our website since the early 1990s, ACCSports.com. And if you want to check out the radio show, we are live noon to 3, Monday through Friday. You can learn more about that at davidglennshow.com.
Dave, as always, great stuff. Happy New Year to you again, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Dan. Always good to be with you, bud. Take care.
All right, that is Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. We will come back and wrap up the show by talking about what lies ahead for Bob Ritchie's Furman basketball team after the 12-0 streak, the national rankings. All of that has gone by the boards. But don't sleep on these Paladins just yet. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up the show. When you're looking for the home of a lifetime, you need a realtor you can trust. With more than 27 years experience selling real estate, Gel Sartain is the choice to help the discriminating buyer find the home of their dreams. Licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia, Gel specializes in homes on beautiful lakes Hartwell and Kiwi, as well as the surrounding areas, and has a wealth of experience working with people with technical backgrounds. Now is the time to buy, sell, and invest in real estate in the Clemson-Seneca area. Let Gail help you realize that dream today. Call her at 404-317-3171. That's Gail Sartain, a member of the National Association of Realtors.
We're all trying to find our way, forge a path, blaze a trail. The work is hard, and the work is personal. But you can't do it alone. At Furman, we're committed to giving you an advantage, the Furman Advantage. We know that graduates who are emotionally supported and who have deep learning experiences in college are 3 times as likely to be engaged at work and thriving in life. At Furman, all students are guaranteed 4 years of rigorous classroom education integrated with high-impact research, internships, study away, and a community of support every step of the way. This is the Furman Advantage.
Hey everybody, Dan Scott. I've been telling you for some time now that I switched to protection of my home and family to Security Complete. I can tell you that I've been ecstatic with the results. Locally owned with more than 40 years experience in the industry, Security Complete uses nothing but the latest technology, which equals low overhead, which equals greater savings to the customer. Fully automated systems with monitoring rates much lower than the competition. Security Complete gives you all this and does not require a contract of any length. Find out more by calling 864-546-0630 or find them on Facebook and Twitter. Security Complete, my first line of defense. Make them yours today.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at cincyfavorites.com.
Hey, everybody. Dan Scott here, and I want to tell you about my technology partner, Carolina Creative Group. When my show needed a creative technology boost, I turned to Carolina Creative Group. My custom design website is going to take marketing as well as brand strategy and development to new levels. The search engine optimization means that my clients' ads will be seen by more people more often. And if I have any questions, Carolina Creative Group is just a phone call away. Friends, that is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. You can find out all the ways that Carolina Creative Group can help your business by simply calling 864-250-2012. Again, that's 864-250-2012, or simply visit them online at carolinacreative.co. Carolina Creative Group, technology partner of the Dan Scott Show. Our thanks to Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com for joining us. And before I forget, I want to say hello to another media guy from that area, the triangle or the triad. I guess he kind of floats back and forth in between. But an old homeboy of mine going back to Mingo County, West Virginia, Scott Hamilton, who's been on this show before, just sent me a note. He was checking out the show while driving. I'm not sure that watching the video and driving is good for you. I'm not sure that watching the video is good for you anyway, to, have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man coming at you on a regular basis. But good to hear from our buddy Scott Hamilton. All right, in our final 4 or 5 minutes here, just a little bit of a look ahead for Bob Ritchie's team. The last time that we talked prior to the Christmas break, the Paladins were undefeated. Paladins were ranked in the top 25. Matter of fact, they had been in the AP poll, and they had just made the coaches poll. And, of course, it would be short-lived because we go to LSU on the 29th and lose down there. 18-point final margin, which was not quite indicative of how the game played out. But in the final 5 or 6 minutes, LSU was able to pull away and really gave the Paladins difficulty with their tandem big men and the way they were able to pressure the ball out front and get Furman really sped up. Well, you come back, that was on the 21st, come back on the 29th after Christmas, and lo and behold, you have kind of a repeat of the same pattern at East Tennessee State. They just recently got a 7-footer, Gassan, eligible, a transfer from Oklahoma State. So now all of a sudden they have 3 big men who are 6'10" or above that they can rotate in and out of their lineup, and they also have big guards who come out and really pressure the ball, and they gave Furman the same kind of fits that LSU did, and that was a game the Paladins, it was a struggle from start to finish. They lose by 20, and at one juncture late in the second half, we're down by as many as 28. Now, I don't think ETSU is that much better than Furman. In fact, when the two teams play here later on at Timmons Arena, I fully expect Furman to win that game. We will see. But the pattern in each of those 2 games has been very, very similar. What bodes well for the Paladins moving ahead is that nobody else in the Southern Conference really has that kind of tandem big man potential. Wofford to a minor degree, but nobody else can create those kind of matchup issues and cause Furman those kinds of problems, and then complement it with players who are bigger, longer, and leaner at virtually every position on the floor. So it's a scenario where they're just not going to see that again until they play East Tennessee State again, and by that time you think they would have a plan in place to handle that, as we have seen in the past with this club. I think the bottom line is, as Tom and I talked after the LSU game, nobody, if they're really honest with themselves, thought that Furman was going to go undefeated. Now, there's not been an undefeated college basketball team left standing since Bob Knight's Indiana Hoosiers. I keep wanting to say Pacers. Indiana Hoosiers in the 75-76 season. The closest we came was back in the early 90s when UNLV went undefeated to the championship game and lost to Duke. I think that was 1993, in early April of 93. That's the closest we've come. And then Kentucky did it. They ran undefeated, I believe, to a championship game just a handful of years ago and lost in the title game. So you knew Furman was not going to finish this season undefeated. The Southern Conference is just too good. The top 4 teams in the SoCon, counting Furman, are as strong as you're going to see in just about any mid-major conference in this country. You look at the Paladins, you look at Wofford, you look at ETSU, you look at Greensboro. Those 4 teams can stack up with pretty much any mid-major league in this season, and on any given night, as we have seen already, can stack up with some of the best teams in the country from time to time. So going undefeated was never a realistic goal for Furman or for any other team in college basketball. The other truism here is that the Southern Conference, regardless of that strength at the top, is going to be a one-bid league. That is the bottom line in all of this thing. The only way that doesn't happen is if the team that goes through and wins the regular season only has 2 or 3 losses total on their resume and loses in the conference championship game, maybe gets a sniff at an at-large. Chances of that happening, though, are minuscule. This is a one-bid league, so where you are, if you're Bob Ritchie's team right now, is where you are the night that you walked on the floor to start off this season against Bob Jones University, and that is you got to win the Southern Conference tournament to go to the NCAA tournament. Nothing has changed. The fans get caught up. The media gets caught up. There was a lot of attention brought to this school, and all of that is fantastic. I'm glad that it happened, but it did not change anything as far as the Paladins' path to the NCAA tournament. They've got to win the Southern Conference tournament in Asheville the second week of March. You don't do that, and then you are looking at some other sort of postseason, the CIT, the NIT, maybe, definitely if you win the regular season and don't win the championship in the tournament. The bottom line here is that you got to win it. You got to go to Asheville and you got to win the conference tournament. And the best way to do that is to make your road as easy as possible through the early rounds of that tournament by finishing as high as you can in the Southern Conference regular season. And that's what you're shooting for now. The Paladins 1-1 in SoCon play, and the next 2 games are at home. Thursday night against Mercer, 7 p.m., and 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon against the Citadel. And that'll be 2 more opportunities for Bob Ritchie's team to snap out of the mini funk that they're in right now and get things rolling back in the right direction. And you talk about 2 teams at the opposite ends of the spectrum in the style of play. Mercer, a half-court, grind-it-out type of team. and the Citadel under Duggar Bacom is going to go up and down, and they're going to launch threes, and they're going to try again to be the highest-scoring team in the nation this year. And they have gotten a transfer in at point guard who has been phenomenal for them, and they are playing some very good basketball here through the first half of the season as well. There are 16 games remaining for the Paladins. They're all in conference play, and every single one of them matters. If you're going to win the league, you're going to have to set yourself up, get that first round bye. The Paladins showed 5 years ago how hard it is to come out of a play-in scenario where you have to play on the Friday in the tournament, Friday through Monday in the SoCon, and get themselves in a situation to have to win 4 games. They almost did it. You saw how difficult that was. Get your first round bye and take your shot from there. And to do that, you've got to play well in the regular season. Everything Bob Ritchie's team wanted to accomplish is still ahead. It's still on the table. And these 2 losses to LSU and ETSU have done nothing to change that. That is going to put a wrap on things for today. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to be joined for the first time in a while by former Clemson standout and retired U.S. Secret Service agent Billy Davis, who has been trotting the globe with Franklin Graham and Operation Christmas Child and the Billy Graham Evangelic Association as their head of security. He'll be back with us to talk about his memories of playing in a national championship game back in 1981 and projecting that to what these kids are going through as they prepare to play Alabama on Monday. That and much more in an abbreviated week on Friday. Who knows what we'll get into, but we'll have fun doing it. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to having you back here with us tomorrow, same time and same place. Until then, I'm Dan Scott, reminding you, go out and make a positive difference in somebody else's life. God bless you. So long, everybody.